Look, my friend, now drop everything and imagine for a second. You have $1.5 million in your pocket. That's not a small amount of money. We're talking about a serious fortune, a scratch. What would you do with that money? You'd go to France, to the Normandy coast, and literally buy yourself a castle. I'm not kidding. A real castle with 12 bedrooms, surrounded by a moat, and even with a grumpy ghost named Pierre in the cellar judging your wine choices. Now take that $1.5 million, hop on a plane, and come to Toronto or Vancouver. Do you know what you can buy? A semi-detached ruin that smells like wet dog, with ceilings so low you walk around like the hunchback of Notre Dame. Welcome. This is Canada, the homeland of maple syrup, polite apologies, and that housing market that has turned into a black hole, sucking the blood out of every other sector of the economy. While the rest of the world is busy building tech giants, innovating, and creating things that actually benefit people, Canada slammed its fist on the table. We're constantly selling each other houses at ever higher prices. Sounds funny, right? But when you look at the math, it's not funny at all. It's a horror movie. In this video, we'll examine how real estate in Canada isn't just growing, it's swallowing the economy whole. We'll look at zombie companies, the dark world of banking, government bailout packages that create moral hazards, and what happens when a country mistakes its debt for its wealth. Buckle up because this journey is going to be a bit bumpy. 1. The big capital vacuum. Why are we not producing anything anymore? Let me tell you a story first. Let's say your name is Kevin, a brilliant young entrepreneur. You have an AI idea that will revolutionize the logistics industry. You need capital. You walk into that Plaza Bank in downtown Toronto wearing your finest suit, carrying your presentation file. The loan officer looks at you, gives you a once over, and says, Kevin, I'm sorry, buddy. Starting a business is risky. You could fail. We can't give you $500,000 for this. You're disheartened and walk out the door. But then a light bulb goes off in your head. 5 minutes later, you go back into the same bank and say, actually, I've changed my mind. I want to buy that money with a 40-year-old, single-room concrete block with questionable plumbing. The loan officer's eyes light up. Kevin, why didn't you tell me from the start? Here's $1 million. Spend it well. Here's the thing. We call it big capital vacuuming. How do economies grow? They grow when money flows into factories, software, machinery, R&D. In other words, productive assets. These create jobs, they generate exports. But in Canada, an incredible amount of capital has been withdrawn from productivity and buried in the housing market. Numbers don't lie, Professor. Even if real estate agents do, numbers don't. According to OECD data, Canada will be the worst performing country among developed economies in the next decade. Not one of the worst, but directly the worst. Why? Because business investments have been thrown away. While American investors are pouring their money into Nvidia, Tesla, and Microsoft, Canadian investors are burying their money in flimsy, unbuilt houses in the city. In the last quarter of 2023, investment in housing was almost double the total of all other business investments. Do you understand the scale of the madness? The money we spent building the boxes we sleep in is more than the money we spent building the businesses that enable us to buy those boxes. This situation created a cycle of doom. Housing returns were so high that smart money stopped chasing innovation. Why invest in a startup that risks failing? Buy a house in Mississauga, live in it for 3 years, do nothing, and sell it for a 40% profit. Does that make sense individually? Yes, but on a national level, it's like self-destruction. We turned the country into a giant landlord. And here's the darkest irony. Home ownership isn't productivity. Rentierism doesn't add value to the world. It only exploits existing value. When the price of a house doubles, it doesn't become twice as useful. It's the same house. The shelter it provides is the same, but the capital required to buy it doubles, and it's stolen from other areas of the economy. If you're wondering Why Canadian wages are stagnant while American wages are lapping ours? This is the answer. A country cannot get rich by selling the same houses to each other for more and more. That's not economics. It's a Ponzi scheme with a flag. And you know what the worst part is? We're now too big to fail. Real estate and its related industries make up such a large portion of GDP, 20 to 25%, that if the housing market corrects itself, there will be nothing left of the Canadian economy. We've got the cat's tail and we're terrified of letting go. 2. HELOC heroin, free money addiction. If the first part was about banks, this part is about you. Maybe not you personally, but the collective Canadian landlord. Let's play the illusion of wealth game. Let me introduce you, Linda and Bob. The year is 2015. They bought a house in the suburbs for $500,000. They struggled a bit, but they did it. Fast forward to 2021. That same house is now worth $1.2 million. Linda and Bob think they're financial geniuses. They earned $700,000 without doing anything, without lifting a finger. Rich people. But wait a minute. Are they really rich? Can they afford to spend that house? Can they gnaw and eat the walls? No. Unless they sell the house and move into a tent in Saskatchewan. That money is a fantasy, and that's where the Canadian economic drug dealer comes in. HELOC, home equity line of credit. The bank calls Linda and Bob, "Hey, you have $700,000 worthless collateral there. Why don't you cash it in?" Linda and Bob take out HELOC. It feels like free money. What do they do with it? They go and buy a new Ford F-150, which is the official truck for financing my lifestyle with debt. Renovate the kitchen with quartz countertops, and the biggest surprise, maybe they go and make a down payment on an investment apartment. This is the HELOC heroin. This system fueled a massive consumer frenzy in Canada, masking the fact that our salaries weren't actually increasing. We felt rich because our houses were getting bigger. At the height of the madness, Canadians became one of the most indebted people on the planet. We even surpassed Americans in household debt-to-income ratio, which isn't the kind of race you'd want to win. For every dollar an average Canadian household has in their pocket, they have roughly $1.85 in debt. Americans learned their lesson after the 2008 crisis and reduced their debt, but Canadians looked back at 2008 and said, "Hold on a beer, watch now." HELOCs are generally variable rate. The party was great when interest rates were 0.25%, but when the central bank started raising rates to fight inflation, that hangover hit hard. Linda and Bob's monthly interest payments tripled. That truck, that kitchen, now they're spending thousands of dollars just to pay the interest on the debt. This shows just how fragile the Canadian economy is. Consumption drives GDP. But if everyone's disposable income is going towards paying off the mortgage on their ridiculously expensive homes, nobody's going to buy anything else. Restaurants empty, shops close, small businesses die. We created a wealth effect on the way up. Now we're looking at the poverty effect at the end of the barrel as we descend. Even more frightening, negative amortization. This is a fancy term used by bankers, but it means you're so bankrupt that your monthly payment doesn't even cover the interest. In 2023 and 2024, Canadian banks announced a shocking portion of their mortgage portfolios had repayment plans extending to 35, 40, or even 70 years. Just digest that. 70 years. You'll die, your children will grow old, and that mortgage will still be there. We've essentially invented a generational debt slavery system to ensure house prices never fall. Zombie mortgages for a zombie economy. 3. The population trap, the false growth strategy. If you turn on the news, politicians will tell you that the Canadian economy is growing. Look at the GDP. We're soaring, they say. But if the economy is growing, why does everyone feel broke? Why does the average Canadian feel like they're slowly drowning in a pool of maple syrup and debt? This is due to an economic sleight of hand that I call the pizza party fallacy. Imagine you're having a pizza party for 10 people. You order 12 pizzas. Everyone eats until they're stuffed. Life is great. Now imagine you invite 10 more people to the party, but you only order one extra pizza. Technically, did the total amount of pizza at the party increase? Yes, it did. GDP growth. But did the amount of pizza per person plummet? Yes, it did. That's exactly what's happening to Canada. We're covering up our decay with massive population growth. In 2023 alone, Canada's population increased by 1.2 million. That's equivalent to the entire population of Estonia arriving in the country in 12 months, the fastest growth since the 1950s. Immigration is wonderful. It brings talent, it brings culture, it brings great food, but you can't invite 1 million people to dinner without setting the table. We haven't built houses for them. We haven't built hospitals. We haven't built public transportation. We simply opened the doors and said, good luck finding a basement apartment for under $2,500. This created what even bank economists openly call the population trap. The dirty secret is this: if you flood the labor market with people, wages are suppressed. Why would a company invest in expensive automation or productivity software that will boost the economy in the long run? There's no need when there's cheap labor, and they didn't. While the US increased its productivity with automation, Canada became less productive. We used flesh and blood as material to inflate GDP figures. If you look at the GDP per capita data, which measures the real standard of living, Canada has actually been in recession for a long time. The country may be getting richer on paper, but individually we are getting poorer. And where are all these new people going? To the housing meat grinder. High demand plus zero supply equals skyrocketing rents. This benefits existing homeowners, landlords, and baby boomers. It crushes newcomers and young Canadians. This is a transfer of wealth from the desperate to the privileged, disguised as economic policy. 4. A gamble too big to fail. The moral hazard of the government. Now you might be asking, why doesn't the market correct itself? If houses are too expensive, people can't afford them, so prices fall. Oh, my naive friend, you still think we live in a free market? We don't. We live in a protected asset class. The government, whichever party it is deathly afraid of falling house prices. Why? Because homeowner voters are the most powerful demographic group in the country. If house prices fall by 20%, that government will be wiped out at the ballot box. It's that simple. That's why they've woven a massive network of moral hazard. What is moral hazard? It's taking risks because you know someone else will pay the price if things go wrong. Look at CMHC, Mortgage and Housing Corporation of Canada. This government agency insures mortgages. If you buy a house with less than 20% down payment, you have to pay for this insurance. But here's the bombshell. This insurance doesn't protect you, it protects the bank. If you can't pay your debt, the bank gets its money back from the insurance company. The bank takes almost zero risk. They give you $500,000, and if you can't pay, taxpayers through CMHC bail out the bank. Do you think this system encourages responsible lending, or does it encourage banks to shovel money out the door? When the market started to wobble in 2023 and 2024, the government panicked. They extended amortization periods. They bought billions of dollars worth of mortgage bonds to pump cash into the system. They came up with the idea of a 30-year mortgage for first-time home buyers. Every time the housing market tries to take a natural breath and correct itself, the government bursts in with a defibrillator yelling, "You won't die in my seizure." They're trying to outlaw recession, but the problem with trying to ban gravity is this. Eventually you run out of energy, and the fall is much harder. By not letting the forest burn a little, they've piled up so much dry wood that the inevitable fire threatens to burn the entire country. Meanwhile, I'm currently filming this video from a pillow castle because rent in Toronto is $2,800, and my landlord claims this living room is a luxury open-concept micro-suite. Subscribe to the channel so I can live in a real drywall castle someday. I love you all. 5. The caste system, owners and tenants. We need to talk about Canada's social fabric because it's tearing apart. For decades, Canada's deal was simple. Work hard, save money, buy a house, retire. That deal is dead. We've replaced it with a rigid feudal caste system. Class A, landowners. These are people who bought real estate before 2015. They got it not because they're smarter or harder working than others, but simply because they were born earlier. They sit on millions of dollars in tax-free earnings. They leverage their equity to buy rental properties and tax Class B. Class B renters. Young people, newcomers, and anyone who missed the train. They pay 50-60% of their income to Class A just to have a roof over their heads. Rents are so high they can't save for a down payment. The ladder has been pulled up. This isn't just about money, it's about life. When housing costs wipe out all your income, you postpone marriage. You postpone having children. Canada's fertility rate hit an all-time low in 2023 at 1.26 per woman. We are literally dying out because we can't afford to reproduce. Consider the psychological devastation. 30-year-old professionals, lawyers, engineers, teachers are living with 3 roommates or returning to their families. This creates a state of developmental stagnation. At 32, you can't feel like an adult asking your mother for permission to bring your date home. This inequality breeds anger. Walking down the street, you see a boomer driving past the tent cities in the park in their Porsche bought with HELOC. The disconnect is profound, and the system is designed to protect the wealthy at the expense of the common people. Every policy introduced, first home savings account, interest rate cuts, all increase demand, raise prices, and benefit property owners. We are sacrificing the future of the young to protect the wealth of the elderly. 6. Snow washing. If you think that only hardworking families are buying homes in the Canadian real estate market, I have a bridge to sell you. We need to talk about the dirty underbelly of this boom, money laundering. Canada has a charming nickname in international crime circles, snow washing. Sounds refreshing, right? But here's what it means. Taking dirty money from drug cartels and corrupt officials and cleaning it up by buying Canadian real estate. For years, Canada had the weakest transparency laws among the G7 countries. You could buy a $20 million penthouse in Vancouver through a shell company in the Seychelles. Nobody knew who bought it. The Vancouver model became famous worldwide. Gangsters walk into casinos with hockey pucks full of $20 bills. They buy chips, play a bit, cash the money. They now have a casino check. The money is clean. They buy a house with that check. The house sits empty, appreciating by 15% every year. Perfect crime. And the government ignored it for years because, hey, it boosted GDP. The money came from fentanyl sales. So what? Does it balance the budget? Yes, it does. An expert panel in British Columbia estimated that $7.4 billion was laundered through the province in just 1 year, with $5 billion of that going directly to real estate. That's enough to disrupt the entire market. When you bid on a house, you're not competing with Linda and Bob, you're competing with the Sinaloa cartel. And guess what? The cartel has more cash than you. They don't care about paying an extra $100,000. They just need to park the money. This drives prices up for everyone. We've sold our sovereignty to the highest bidder. We've turned our cities into safe deposit boxes for global elites, while our own citizens live in basements. 7. The great brain drain. The flight of talent. Houses are expensive. Salaries are low. Neighbors are criminals. What's next? Smart people are leaving the country. This is the silent killer of the Canadian economy. We talk a lot about those coming through immigration, but we rarely talk about the brain drain, the departure of our best. Consider a 25-year-old software engineer who graduated from the University of Waterloo, one of the world's best technology schools. They have a choice. Option A, move to Toronto, earn 85,000 Canadian dollars, pay $3,000 rent for a shoebox-sized apartment, save zero money. Healthcare is free if you can find a doctor, but you can't. Option B, go to Austin, Texas, or Seattle. Earn $140,000 USD, approximately CAD $190,000. Buy a huge apartment for half the price of the box in Toronto. Pay insurance, but actually see a doctor. It's not a difficult choice. Recent data shows an explosion in the number of Canadians moving to the US. We subsidize their education, we train them, then we gift them to the American economy. This is a productivity death spiral. People who would start companies, get patents, create high-value jobs, are leaving. Those who remain are either anchored in real estate or unable to leave. We are hollowing out the middle class. A country cannot survive on just baristas and real estate agents. You need engineers, doctors. But why would a doctor stay in Canada when rent swallows 60% of their salary? This place has become a daycare and nursing home. We raise young people. They go to work during their productive years, and when they get old, they return to using the healthcare system. This is a recipe for national bankruptcy. 8. Final Japan 2.0 or worse. So how does this movie end? Spoiler alert, it's not a romantic comedy. Economists generally see two scenarios. Scenario A, the Great Collapse, 2008, American style. The bubble bursts. Prices plummet by 30–50%. The good side, homes become affordable again for young people. The bad side, the banking system collapses, millions become unemployed, the dollar plummets. 2 to 3 years of anarchy ensues. But remember, the government will do everything to prevent this. Scenario B, recession, Japanization. This is more likely and, in my opinion, more painful. In the 1990s, Japan's real estate bubble burst, but instead of allowing it to be cleaned up, they kept zombie companies alive with cheap debt. The result? Lost decades. Zero growth for 30 years. Wages flat, the stock market dead. A slow, creaking decline in living standards. Canada is watching this unfold. We may not see a spectacular collapse. Instead, we may see nominal prices remain high while inflation erodes our purchasing power. We will become a low-growth, high-cost museum country where the rich have everything, the poor serve them, and the ambitious flee. We are trading our future dynamism for today's stability. We choose comfort today at the cost of being miserable tomorrow. The real estate trap isn't just about house prices, it's about where human energy is spent. If a generation spends all its mental energy thinking about rent, mortgage interest, and housing shortages, it can't think about art, science, starting a business, or society. We've imprisoned our collective potential within 4 walls. Final word, breaking the spell. So, is it a hopeless case? Should we pack our bags and move to a cabin in Bali? Not necessary, but we need to wake up. The first step to solving a problem is acknowledging its existence. Canada is addicted. We're addicted to high house prices. We treat houses like Bitcoin with a toilet inside. A cultural shift is needed to fix this. We need to stop celebrating when house prices rise. High housing prices aren't wealth creation, they're inflation. It's a policy failure. If you're young, don't let that FOMO ruin your life. Don't get into debt that will suffocate you for 40 years just because society says you should. Renting isn't a failure. Investing in yourself, your talents, and your freedom yields a far better return than a concrete building in the city. And if you're a homeowner sitting in a $1 million house, understand that your paper wealth exists at the expense of your children's future. You're kicking the ladder you climbed so those behind you can't. This country has everything it takes to be an economic superpower: resources, peace, educated people, but we've locked it all away in a mortgage. It's time to find the key. Thanks for watching. I know it was a heavy topic, but we can't fix it if we don't talk about those ugly realities. Like and subscribe. Maybe I'll get rid of that pillow pen. Until the next video, stay safe, try not to sink.